Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we turn to talking about the state of Oregon. Oregon is a state in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States, and it's known to be very liberal. Portland, Oregon is probably one of the more famous sites there, and the most I know about Portland comes from the show Portlandia, which is just a parody joke version of Portland, and it makes fun of them for being really, really hipster and kind of like left wing and like very progressive. There's like a bookstore owned by feminists in the show. There's people going to brunch all the time, like lots of hipster stuff. It comes out of this state. This part of the country is very left wing, and we've seen it being reflected in the public recently. Portland is one of the places they tried to make their own autonomous zone in reaction to the close by autonomous zone in Seattle, Washington. Seattle is right near Portland. Those states are adjoining. And Portland had tried to make an autonomous zone. They're leftist crazy people, the Tifa, all the protesters tried to make an area there. And that also happened in Seattle, which is close to them. And they're also next to California, of course. So the West Coast is very much a coastal elitist place. And that's what's bringing us to today's story. Basically, what happened is a county in Oregon has issued a mask ordinance, meaning that county, people have to wear masks now. But they had one little interesting caveat. Only certain people have to wear masks. That's right. Because of racial discrimination, as they claim, only certain people have to wear masks. Anyone that's in the minority group doesn't have to wear a mask. Only the majority group, and we all know how that falls in this area, in this country. Certain people are being forced to wear masks, and while at the same time, minority people are being excused and treated special because we know everything's going crazy in the world today. Things are really biased. This kind of reverse racism is very prevalent, and that's what we're talking about and what we're going to get into with today's story. Here you can see a search about this. It says Oregon County face mask. There's a number of articles about it, and it basically kind of spells it out in these headlines. They say, people of color won't be required to wear masks in Oregon County. That's from CNN. And then the New York Post says Oregon County issues face mask order that exempts non-white people. So a little bit of a different framing there. These are kinds of newspapers and news organizations that are opposite sides of the spectrum politically. So we're going to go ahead and examine each story and see how it goes. We'll start with the New York Post, who tends to kind of lean conservative sometimes, at least be a little more fair to the right. And they're the ones that say Oregon County issues face mask order that exempts non-white people. So essentially they're saying minorities are special. We're giving them special treatment. And in turn, they're also being racist and anti-white. Like this is like against us. This is going against a certain group of people. Another thing worth noting is there's a lot of white guilt in Oregon. Oregon is actually a very, very white state, like more white than most. I know it has some minorities and some diversity, as they put it, but it still has a lot of white people. So there's a lot of white guilt there. That's why this kind of stuff happens in these places. Like they think they're helping, but they're actually ending up being more offensive. And they're kind of like, oh, they're trying to end racism with more racism. That's the problem. It's like you can't end racism by being racist to people. Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't follow along with what they claim. Like they say they want equality and they want fairness, but that's not the case at all, as we can see with this kind of tale. Lincoln County, Oregon has exempted non-white people from a new order requiring that face coverings be worn in public to prevent racial profiling. Health officials announced last week residents must wear face coverings in public settings where they may come within 6 feet of another individual who is not from the same household. But people of color do not have to follow the new rule if they have heightened concerns about racial profiling and harassment over wearing the masks, officials said. No person shall intimidate or harass people who do not comply, health officials said. With mask requirements becoming more common, activists have raised concerns that the directives could put non-white people in danger. Okay, I just don't get it at all. I'm already very confused. I'm not sure where this is going. I don't get what it has to do with race. Like, how is it going to be racial profiling if they're wearing the mask or ordered to wear masks? I think the main point is they just don't want to make them follow the rules. They don't want to enforce any laws to minorities. I mean, we've seen that as the case. We've seen that with these kinds of protests and demonstrations and the BLM stuff. Like, I think the whole point is it's not about worried about profiling or harassment. It's just they don't want to have to enforce laws upon minorities. They want to treat them special. They're basically treat them like children, because it's like, this is what you do with a kid. Like, a kid might not have to follow the rules because you're like, oh, they're just a kid, they're learning. Let's let them whatever do something silly, walk in your house with the shoes on or something like that. They don't have to follow the rules because they're a kid or a pet. Your pet, you give them extra credit and they're like, oh, we don't normally eat off the floor, but this the pet, it's the dog, let him do it. He gets to tear something up because he's just a dog. And that's what these guys are treating minorities like. I don't know if they realize that. Like, I think they're trying to pander to them and act like they're nicer to them or something, but it's really coming off as like parental and over the top and offensive. For many black people, deciding whether or not to wear a bandana in public to protect themselves and others from contracting the virus is a lose-lose situation that can result in life-threatening consequences either way. Renika Moore, director of ACLU's Racial Justice Program, told CNN. Whoa. First of all, bandana is just one kind of mask option. I've seen lots of other ones. I've hardly seen many bandanas. I've made this joke before, though, actually. Like, one time I went to the store with my grandpa and he was doing the bandana mask, and I was like saying, hey, maybe you're just going to rob the place instead because it just looks like that with the bandana. Like, I get that kind of relation, but I think in this day and age, people understand, like, that's not going to happen. Like, people don't really rob with bandanas anymore either. That's like something you see on TV or in the movies. And nowadays, yeah, everyone's wearing masks. Everyone has different kinds. Like, lots of people are doing the bandana thing. Not that many, but some. And I think it's enough that people are going to be alerted to it. And they're not going to think, oh, you see someone walking up with a bandana, you're not going to think they're robbing you. You're going to think they're just protecting themselves from the virus. And that also is not like a racial thing. Like, I said that, like I told you my story. I said that about my grandpa. Like, we're white people. Like, it looks like that. It could be that thing with any race. So the fact that they're trying to make this like a minority thing is just not making sense either. Trevin Logan, who is black, said orders to wear face coverings are basically telling people to look dangerous given racial stereotypes that are out there. This is in the larger context of black men fitting the description of a suspect who has a hood on, who has a face covering on. Logan, an economics professor of Ohio State University, told the outlet. It looks like almost every criminal sketch of any garden variety black suspect. So I think they're kind of like revealing some of their own racism here. Like, they're thinking that it's going to cause like whatever cops to go after them more or something. Like, I'm not seeing it. I'm not buying it. Like, it just seems like they're just kind of trying to make it all about them and kind of get special treatment, which we've seen over and over again. But basically telling them to look dangerous. Like, are you admitting that these people look like criminals, like if they wear a mask covering? Like, I don't know. I think that's like more on you and your perception. I don't think cops are going to mess with you just if you're wearing a mask or a bandana. I certainly don't think they're just going to come out and attack you or hurt you. Like, this comes from a paranoia. I see a lot of paranoia in this. Like, I see this as these people like are really scared something's going to happen to them. Something's going to happen to them with the cops when really they shouldn't be. I mean, it's really simple to not get into trouble with the cops. Like, all you got to do is don't break the law. And then when they come in your area and possibly ask you questions or go to arrest you, you just go along with it. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to, argue or debate or whatever. You just say, yes, officer, I'll get in the car, or whatever they may be. They might ask you to go to the station. Like, whatever happens, it's really easy to avoid conflict with them. Like, they're not going to just attack you for no reason. There's cameras everywhere now too. There's body cams and all this stuff. So I don't really see this as a proper perception. I mean, I know they might see it this way. I believe some people think this way, but that's flawed thinking. And it comes from them having paranoid parents, like putting this kind of bad anti-cop, like fear mongering in their minds. Like, they're scared, obviously, if this is all true, if they really believe this stuff. But at the same time, I could also see them just trying to say this crap just so they don't have to wear masks. Like, it could be just a big con. Lastly, let's check in with the CNN story, see what the left has to say about this. They say people of color won't be required to wear masks in an Oregon county, almost already complimentary. People of color are exempted from the mask mandate over concerns about racial profiling. Racial profiling is BS, by the way. Lincoln County, Oregon requires most residents to wear face coverings in public settings, indoors or outdoors. The overwhelmingly white county will not require non-white residents to wear them if they fear harassment, the county said this month. So, like I was saying about the state, this county is also overwhelmingly white. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is it's basically like them admitting, like, if this is true, if there is this kind of bad racial profiling in this county, in this state, I mean, this is a liberal place. Like they're basically saying we're all racist, like we're race obsessed. And if we see a black person with the mask, we're gonna think they're a criminal and harass them or something. Like that's what they're saying, like about their own people. Like I know I kind of want to stand up and say this is wrong for Americans, even for like defending white people. Like I'm not really big about race. Like it might seem like that because I talk about it here sometimes, but the main thing is we just have become and have to become a little bit defensive. It's like they're attacking us all the time, so we need to explain things and spell them out. But in this case, I think it's also worth pointing out. I mean, they're basically saying their own people are racist. All these liberals in this county, they've elected this liberal leadership. They've gone with all these left-wing policies and stuff. They have all these rules there, and they're still racist. They're saying their own people are racist. It's one of the first counties in the U.S. to exempt people of color. That's a bad thing. That's not good. I don't know why CNN wants that. Also exempted are people with disabilities, children, this and that. Lincoln County is home to nearly 50,000 residents, almost 90% white and less than 1% black. But it's also home to the Siletz Reservation and a growing population of Latino residents. So this is actually like not really affecting many people. Like there's not even that many there. 50,000 is a good amount, but it's not that much for a county or a city. I mean, I imagine there's multiple towns in this county. There usually are. And this is their representation. There's nothing wrong with happening to be a certain demographic, but the fact of the matter is, like, if they're allowing this, it's just kind of a pander move, and it's based on their white guilt, and it's also them kind of admitting their own racism. That about wraps things up. That wraps up this story about Oregon being very racist, coming up with this kind of anti-white law, kind of showing how progressive they are, virtue signaling to the world. And I think you guys get the point. I think there's enough to talk about here. If you want to discuss in the comments, that'd be great. I'll be reading some comments, responding when appropriate. And also, make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And also, check out our second channel. NoBS News has 11,000 subscribers now. New videos there every weekday, and also live streams sometimes on the weekend. So check it out. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.